listening to the Pathway CTM My Career podcast. I'm Izzy, I'm your host for today, and I'm here with Umayr, who's a tech apprentice at BT and has also been to 10 Downing Street to talk about his experience. So, Umayr, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for having me, Izzy. Yeah, so my name's Umayr Tanvir. I'm currently multi-award winning software engineering apprentice at BT Group. I'm also the co-chairman of the BT Muslim Network and also the co-founder and CEO of Ace Insights.
Amazing. Cool, let's get going. So, Umayr, tell us a bit about your role, when you started, what you're doing, and kind of where you've got to so far.
Absolutely. So my name's Umayr Tanvir. I'm currently a fourth year degree apprentice, as you mentioned, at BT Group. My apprenticeship is 4 years long, and I'm in my final year,
Cool.
so almost finished.
Great. And what's your kind of daytime role? So, what's your kind of job title?
So currently, I'm working in our data and AI unit.
Cool.
And as a part of that, I'm working in a data engineering team. So I'm involved with working with technologies such as Google Cloud Platform, and various other technologies as well. So it's a kind of software engineering / data engineering role. So it's nice to kind of experience the best of both worlds.
And how do you find that? So kind of final year apprentice, as it were, has it kind of all been building up to this? How did you kind of find it when you first started compared to now?
Yeah, I mean, the feeling is absolutely different when I first started as an apprentice. I mean, over the years, you feel like you're picking up a lot of knowledge, you feel like you're building your network, and you just feel like you belong within the company and the role that you're working in. So initially, as an apprentice, fresh out of sixth form, it can be quite challenging. And you do sometimes have a bit of imposter syndrome and you feel like, maybe I don't belong here. But that's totally natural.
Yeah.
Because your peers and your fellow kind of, what's the word, sorry?
Colleagues.
Your fellow colleagues. So your fellow colleagues are like so much more experienced. They've had so much more experience in the workplace. So it's natural that you're obviously going to be a lot more less experienced than them and have less knowledge. But it's about building that, asking the right questions. And I've been fortunate enough to do that over the years. And, you know, thankfully I've built my knowledge and experience and I feel a lot better and a lot more well-rounded as well in my role.
Yeah. And why did you kind of choose BT and also tech? How did you kind of get into that, and what subjects did you do at school? Did they lead into it, or?
Yeah, no, not at all. So the subjects that I did at A level were Arabic, economics, and politics.
Wow, so no tech at all.
Absolutely zero tech in those subjects. And I initially, well, even I could argue now that I don't know really what I want to do.
Yeah.
But in sixth form, I had absolutely no clue what I wanted to do. And in my head, you know, I was just applying for apprenticeships in all kinds of industries and all kinds of roles. And I did get offers from various companies, BT Group being one of them. And I guess the reason why I went with BT and technology more specifically is because I felt like the opportunities that you have in the technology industry are just so massive.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be a part of that. And I am a bit of a tech geek myself as well. So kind of working on the latest softwares and working on the latest technologies was something that was quite appealing. So that's kind of what edged it for me in the end when I decided to go for the BT apprenticeship.
And I think you made the right decision. 4 years later, you know, tech is getting bigger and bigger every single day. So definitely. And how did that, so obviously you didn't really do techie subjects. Did you feel that when you went in, it was a big kind of adapt, like you had to adapt really quickly? Was it a big change? And you had kind of no knowledge of the tech sector? How have you kind of learned from the bottom up, I guess?
I mean, it does sound really scary at first, but it's really not like that. I mean, apprenticeships, and more specifically the BT apprenticeship, is designed so that even if you don't have any experience within the technology industry or on any technologies, generally speaking, you're not disadvantaged. So for example, myself and some of my peers in university, we had absolutely no experience, you know, with any technologies. But the beauty of an apprenticeship is that you start from zero. You know, you could have someone that maybe knows a programming language straight off the back, you know, when they join an apprenticeship, or someone like me who didn't know much about, you know, programming, for example. But we all start on the same level, and that's from zero, and then you build up from there. And that's what kind of helps you adapt and kind of, you know, start off from a level playing field.
And I think that's a big myth around apprenticeships, to be honest, because if I saw, you know, a coding apprenticeship or a software engineering apprenticeship, you would think that you had to have, like some people don't even know what that means, you know, that job title means. Like what do you do day to day? So I think the fact that you kind of all start, like you said, you all start on zero and you build up together is really important, and also really important for teachers and parents to understand as well, and encouraging people to apply for these tech programs, even if they don't do a current tech subject at school. And that's, I think, the fact that you didn't do tech subjects, how did you find that in kind of the application process for BT Group? Did you have to give academic requirements? How did that work?
Yeah, so that's an interesting point because I had no prior tech experience, as we've established, and so it's important that during the application process I can demonstrate that I'm passionate about the technology industry. And that can manifest itself in various ways. The way I did it was to ensure that I showcase to the interviewer that I am fit for the company, I'm fit for BT, and that I have the soft skills to be a competent, software engineer, firstly, and secondly, and more importantly, a competent, employee for BT. And so, by demonstrating that you have those soft skills, I had no experience, but I demonstrated that I had those soft skills to succeed in that role, and that's what kind of allowed for me to get the role in the end. And that's the advice, and that's the approach for any other role that you may be applying for.
It's so true. It's so, transferable skills, and when you're applying for these apprenticeships, they don't expect you to be an expert in that space. You're 18 years old. When have you had the time to be a full-time employee somewhere? You haven't. And that's what we say to our students as well when in the application process. If you show you're enthusiastic and you want to learn, that's what they want from you. And it sounds like you did that. And how many did you apply for in the end, apprenticeships, and how many kind of processes did you go through?
Yeah, I applied for plenty because come December, January time, during the cycle that I was applying for, I wasn't really getting anything. So I was kind of panicking and thinking, maybe something's, not right.
Not right,
And so that's when I started to just apply to mass applications. Any apprenticeship that I would come across, I'd apply for it. In the end, I can't tell you a number. I don't know how many I applied for. But that kind of did reward itself in the end, because come around April time, that's when I was getting assessment center, offers. And as a result of that, I got a few offers in the end as well, and I kind of had a nice but difficult choice of having to choose between those offers.
It's a great position to be in.
Exactly.
And I think that's it's a great point around, just not applying for anything because you want to make sure it's for you, but that's advice that we give to students and also teachers as well. And it is, when you're from the student's perspective, you don't understand how long these processes are. So you're probably applying, like you said, in October, November, and you're not getting an interview date till March. And when you're in school, it's like time is ticking. Everyone's doing their UCAS, exams are coming up. You can't commit to these assessment centres and interviews during exam time. So how did you kind of manage that, and what all of your friends getting uni offers and unconditionals? How did that make you feel?
Exactly. So I went to a kind of really high-end sixth form. And the sixth form encouraged students to apply for university, particularly Oxbridge, the top Russell Group universities, and even Ivy League universities. And so, in fact, all of my friends really, applied for universities. And when you submit your personal statement, shortly after, you do get conditional offers. And so I was seeing my friends getting all those conditional offers, and here I was, in the early stages of apprenticeship applications, and I didn't really know what was going to happen. So that did create some sort of nervousness and anxiety. And it's natural because everyone around you kind of has a brief plan, and they know, kind of what they're going to be doing next year.
And it's the unknown, isn't it? Like
exactly.
they're all moving to halls and things in September, and you're thinking, what am I doing? Like I've been in the exact same position. I know it's really tough. But so if you kind of were surrounded by that, why did you choose apprenticeships? Because you must have kind of been an anomaly in that sense.
Yeah, a big anomaly. I mean, for me, a few reasons. The most important reason was I couldn't really afford the tuition fees to go to university. And the only alternative to that was student loan. And the student loan is interest-based, which is kind of going against my religious beliefs as a Muslim. So that kind of led me to the path of, I have to find an alternative because I do not want to compromise my religious beliefs. And as a result of that, that's how I came across degree apprenticeships and saw that this is an alternative for going to university through the traditional route. And I was really set on that, and I was really fixed on that. And so, yeah, that's really the reason why mainly I went down the apprenticeship
Yeah.
route, even though there was this added pressure from your peers, sometimes even teachers
Yeah.
that no, you need to go to university. I stood by my decision and I'm
Yeah.
glad I did.
Oh, 100%. Like, that's a really inspiring story and reason. And I think you stuck by it, and here you are, and you're now kind of in your final year. And how is that being, because I'm sure a lot of your friends are at university now and maybe they've finished, but
Yeah.
what's kind of the key differences that you're seeing between you and your peers?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, my friends have obviously followed my journey. I've followed their journeys.
Yeah.
And over the years, they're slowly starting to realize and see the tangible benefits of an
Yeah.
apprenticeship. And even some of them, regretting that they decided to go to university and didn't look into apprenticeships or take them as seriously as I did, for example, at the
Yeah.
time. But also seeing university students when they finish and graduate struggling to get graduate roles, and the high competitive nature of those roles. And then I'm here sitting thinking that I will be getting a role in the end of my apprenticeship without any formal interview or without having to fight for a space or a role.
Yeah.
It is a very rewarding feeling, and I think that's why it's so important to showcase the benefits of apprenticeships,
Yeah.
so that students in sixth form or even school can make an informed decision for their future.
And it's breaking the stigma and the myths around them as well. So obviously yours is a level 6, which for kind of listeners is a degree apprenticeship. So how does your university work? What university are you studying at, and where are you kind of at with that at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm going to university next to Greenwich. It's called Ravensbourne University, London. So that's where I do my degree. The way it works is, so we go on a block release.
Okay.
So what that means is every other month, let's say in the second week of March, for example, I'd be going in for 3 days. So from Monday to Wednesday, I'd be going into the university campus, and that's where I'll be spending the whole day, doing lectures and, working on our assignments. During those 3 days, I obviously won't be working, so I won't be expected to log on, check my emails or, do anything work-wise. That's when it's solely dedicated to university. So the structure is block release.
Okay. And obviously some of your friends are at university. What are you doing? Like, there's a lot of stigmas and myths around, is it a full degree? So do you have a graduation at the end, and
Yeah.
what do you get at the end of your university course?
Absolutely. It's a degree like any other degree. The only difference is it's paid for.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay for anything, or you don't incur a student debt. You do get, so the degree I'm getting is a Digital and Technology Solutions, which is a Bachelor's of Science.
Cool.
So it's just a degree like any other degree.
Yeah.
There is no stigma attached to it. Employers won't look at that degree certificate and think, okay, this is an
apprenticeship
inferior,
one.
an apprenticeship degree. They would never look at that.
No.
It's a degree like any other.
And you've had quite an impact in, 10 Downing Street, House of Lords. Tell us a bit about that and how that came about and how you got to have those big conversations.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first started my apprenticeship, initially before starting it, actually, there was this thing in the back of my head that, slight apprehension that, what's the catch? Because it sounds too good to be true.
It does. And that's what a lot of people think.
Exactly. So my expectation going into an apprenticeship was, okay, maybe there will be a catch and I'll kind of
and
figure it out.
Soon. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there's been no catch.
No.
And I started to realize that very early on in my apprenticeships. And then that got me thinking that why are there not more students and more people doing degree apprenticeships, particularly from, I come from a disadvantaged background, and there's always this expectation that the only way and the only route to success is by going to university or becoming a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. There is no other way of success. And so my mission from that day was to kind of ensure that, I'm portraying this, pathway to success.
Yeah.
To people, particularly from a disadvantaged background, and to show them that they can achieve and they can be as successful, if not even more successful, than, if you were to go to university. And so as a result of that, I wanted to become an apprenticeship champion, apprenticeship ambassador. And I started, going to careers fairs, showcasing our BT apprenticeships, going to visiting schools, careers fairs, colleges. And that just led me into kind of this whole domain of apprenticeship promotion. And thankfully, I got the opportunity to feature in our marketing campaigns for BT apprenticeships, Instagram adverts,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
YouTube videos, on billboards within our offices.
You're a celebrity in
And
BT.
yeah. I mean, I get called a celebrity all the time when I walk into the office, even from the security guards. So it was that gave me so much exposure.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that, I wanted to engage with the Department of Education to see how we can kind of better promote these apprenticeships to those from disadvantaged backgrounds once again. And then last year in 2022 during National Apprenticeship Week, I was given the opportunity to represent BT apprenticeships at 10 Downing Street.
Wow.
So we got to kind of go into 10 Downing Street and actually hold a roundtable with the then Secretary of State for Education.
Amazing.
And that roundtable was, kind of gave me the opportunity to portray my opinions and my thoughts on how the government can actually better support and promote apprenticeships. And ever since then, I've also built a kind of personal brand as well on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And that's, allowed for other opportunities to also, come my way. And then this year for National Apprenticeship Week, I was actually fortunate enough to give a speech at the House of Lords to talk about my apprenticeship experience. So all of these opportunities really came about from, just starting from the bottom, which was just visiting schools like
and
many
just a
apprentices
real
do.
passion.
Exactly.
You saw an opportunity, you thought there was a catch, there wasn't. So you want to tell everyone else about this.
Exactly.
And that's exactly why we're doing this podcast today, is to raise awareness and break the stigma and the barrier. But what kind of things came out of those conversations that you were having when you had that round table? What were the government saying about apprenticeships, and what is their kind of strategy, I guess?
Absolutely. I mean, the government recognizes that, there is an issue of uptake amongst disadvantaged, communities in the context of apprenticeships. And I see that, from a grassroots level as well, whenever I'm talking to students, even family members, for instance. There is this lack of belief. There is this idea that, these students have that, they don't belong here. And so it's important that you kind of, have role models within the apprenticeship space, such as myself, for instance. I mean, when I first applied, there was no one that I could look at within the apprenticeship space and say, yeah, he looks like me. He comes from my background. He's made it. So why can't I make it? Why can't I follow in his footsteps? And that was kind of another passion of mine, to ensure that there is this role model. And if it meant it being me, then so be it. And so I have so many people now just messaging me saying, I never thought that, I could do an apprenticeship. And, I heard your story, or I heard your podcast, or, I spoke to you, and now I'm going to be applying for apprenticeships, and I'm definitely going to be considering those. So really the message that I've, portrayed across, in that roundtable and to the government generally is that we need to have more role models.
More better representation,
exactly,
isn't it?
Yeah,
that's so amazing for you though, to be able to have those messages from people. Like, it must feel really, like all your hard work is paying off. And when maybe if someone starts and they say, oh, I followed you on LinkedIn and things, that's amazing. So you're coming to the end of your apprenticeship now. What's kind of next? Where do you see yourself in a few years' time?
Definitely. So I'm obviously finishing my apprenticeship very soon. I will be getting a full-time role at BT.
Cool.
BT has been so good to me. I feel very comfortable. I've built a very good network, and it just works for me. And so I really want to pursue a career and kind of work my way up within BT itself. And hopefully, become a competent software developer. And when I do have those skills, where I am a bit more of an expert, I definitely want to create, passion projects on the side, using technology to benefit society. And, within the apprenticeship context, I definitely want to stay in touch with the apprenticeship space.
For sure.
Because it isn't a case that when I finish my apprenticeship, I disconnect from the apprenticeship space. And I've kind of ensured that will be the case by kind of setting up and co-founding my own social mobility organization as well, ACE Insights.
That's amazing.
And so I'm really hoping that, I can make an impact through that as well.
And you could have your own team of apprentices. That would be the dream, right?
That would be the end goal. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing to hear your story. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone like you, sat at home listening? Maybe they've come from a disadvantaged background. They're surrounded by people going to uni. What would you say to them?
So my advice is very simple. Firstly, believe in yourself. And secondly, challenge those stereotypes that are surrounding, our communities. it's really important to challenge those stereotypes.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether that be, your parents may be apprehensive, or, your teachers might not understand, or your peers might be, a bit misinformed about apprenticeships. Challenge those, have those conversations. And in the context of apprenticeships, when you are applying for apprenticeships, kind of ensure that you're developing those soft skills, and that you're practicing your technique.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I hear frequently from students is that, wow, you are such a good public speaker, or you're so eloquent. But really and truly, I wasn't born with this kind of confidence or this level of eloquence. It comes over practice, and it comes over over time.
Yeah.
And so if you're going into an interview and that's the first time you've ever done an interview and you haven't ever practiced, you will be nervous.
For sure.
So that's why I always advise students to practice, beforehand, whether that's with a teacher, whether that's with, a parent or a sibling, get them to sit you down and get them to ask you questions like, you would be asked in an interview. And so just to kind of iron out those nerves, and, give you that confidence that when you go into the actual interview, you can actually ace it.
Yeah. And the thing is with that is that early careers managers and recruiters, they know you're only 18 years old. They're not expecting you to be, amazing at everything. But like you say, practice, put the work in, be enthusiastic, and essentially be yourself. And I think that's really kind of the key message there.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely amazing to hear your story and how inspiring you are, and the different things that you've done, throughout society. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Izzy. It's been a pleasure.